Hello, ladies and jelly spoons. Welcome to the Game Dojo. Welcome to 24K, movies, TV shows, and video game reviews. Our viewpoint is never scripted, bought, or paid for. If we like it, we tell you. If we hate it, we tell you. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, jelly spoons, it is the Halloween month. And we are a little over 2 weeks until Halloween. And we have been bad. We have not put out a video in like 2 weeks. I've been very sick. I apologize, but we are back. And we are back with a vengeance. Today, in this episode, we are going to talk about the best vampire movies ever created. Now, everybody has a list of what they like in vampire movies. We're going to do a comprehensive look on just what makes these movies great, what was scary about them, what was funny about them, and what was hilarious about them. Now, everybody else's list is probably going to be the same across the board. But when it comes to us here in 24K, well, let's just say we have our own picks on which movies are the best. So I want you guys to sit back, relax, with your favorite bag of snacks, and get ready for these game tracks, because I am the Game Ninja, and this is 24K. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are talking vampires. First up on my list had to be with a bang, without any equivocations. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, and Keanu Reeves in Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola film that held no punches, and I could even let Keanu Reeves and his horrible accent get away with it, because the movie was freaking awesome. Absolutely. Alright, so let's dive right in. When it comes to Bram Stoker's Dracula, there are few vampire films that have epicness literally just encarved all over them. It's an all-star cast. Like I said before, you got Winona Ryder, you got Gary Oldman, who plays the young form of Dracula, if you guys didn't know, Vlad the Impaler. And then he has the older form of him with the butt for a hair. You know, the big white butt for hair. Everybody laughs at that. The Simpsons made fun of it. But the telling of this Dracula is a little bit different from any other movie I've ever seen before. First of all, Anthony Hopkins as the Van Helsing character. I like that they approach this from a realistic point of view and not just the same Vlad, I want to suck your blood. Like, I like the fact that he appears as mist. He changes into bats. He can turn into a wolf. Actually, I am going to say this movie pushed boundaries way too far, but I like it. The whole Lucy wolf scene, wow. The whole Lucy coffin scene, wow. The whole baby scene with Dracula feeding him to his brides. For those of y'all who never read the book is very, very graphic. If this movie was rated R, I would say the book has to be somewhere in the realms of rated X. And there are some things that happen that you just cannot put to film in mainstream Hollywood. The baby scene, I didn't think they were going to do. So they cut and alluded to what happened, but him feeding the baby to his brides, woo! Let's talk about the brides. Let's stop there for 1 second. If you're going to give a movie points, let's just face it. Older horror movies, they were more in your face with the content. This movie, I'm glad, was the same way. There are a few scenes in general that I'll talk about that let's just face it, if grandma was in the room and you was watching this, you'd feel uncomfortable. Not suitable for all audiences. I would definitely say an 18 plus. The scenes in particular are, in no particular order, Lucy and the Wolf, bestiality, but it was him changing into what he was. Lucy having orgasms while she's dying in bed, definitely not gonna see. There was a little girl on girl action with Winona Ryder and Lucy, Mina and Lucy. Look, okay, they were young women. They were in a time period where their hormones was running wild. I get that. But when her husband, Nathan Harker, leaves to go about Cathex's Abbey, which is really funny because at the same time as she having the time of her life and going crazy, Keanu Reeves is over here as Dracula's basically pet. And there are a few scenes that happen in Dracula's castle that are insane. The licking of the razor blade when he was shaving in his blood. The women who, how can I put this? Had their way with Keanu Reeves in the bed, and he is supposedly promised to Mina, and he loves her. Yet when three women appear out of nowhere in his bed, he doesn't fight back. He doesn't fight back. He's quite taken with the moment, as I should say. That's also where the baby moment comes in, where he smacks the women off and brings the baby in to appease them, and it's the laughing scene. it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Him walking up the walls, his shadow doing different things as he's standing here, and his shadow's going the opposite way. Very disturbing imagery, but done amazingly. Also with Renfield, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. This movie has so much going for it that it is a must-see. It definitely is a must-see. If you're having a party, a Halloween party, if you can, I know the world sucks right now, especially in the US. If you're able to just sit around with friends or someone you love and eat some popcorn and watch a horror movie just to get your mind off of life, this is one of the movies you have to put on your list. So on my list of the best vampire movies, in no particular order, I don't want you guys to think this is number 20, this is number 1, this is number 12. This is one of the best vampire movies ever invented. Dracula, Bram Stoker's Francis Ford Coppola. There are so many more scenes that I can allude to, but I won't say. And I do love the sadness, because here's this monster that you're supposed to hate, you're supposed to fear, but in the essence of who he is, he went off to war to fight. They told his wife that he died and she couldn't live without him, so she took her life. And when he came back to greet his beautiful bride from war, because that's all he wanted to do, he found out she took her life. And in a moment of pain, anguish, insanity, and evil, because we cannot go past that, he cursed God and basically took himself out of the book of life and changed him and cursed him in ways he dared to even dream of. And that's what I mean when I say this movie goes there. There is a lot of scenes, there is a lot of imagery, there is a lot of content that would be impossible to do today's society in the movies. But Francis Ford Coppola, Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, Keanu Reeves, a host of other people. Cary Elves is in here. Cary Elways or Elves. I always want to learn how to pronounce his last name. Like, I've already heard him pronounce his first name, Cary. But I think it's Elways, Elves. However it is, no disrespect. He's also in here as well. There's a bunch of other minor characters that are in here that are not the box cover people, but they're amazing actors and actresses. Lucy being one of them. There's moments where you're torn between being turned on erotically and fearing at the same point, and it makes you feel really weird about yourself in a lot of these scenes. So, like I said, Dracula, Bram Stoker's Francis Ford Coppola is definitely on our list when it comes to vampire movies. On to the next one. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, with no equivocations, another top ringer and my favorite vampire movie of all times, 1987's The Lost Boys, definitely has to be on this list. I cannot explain or stress enough the significance of this movie in vampire lore. This movie, amazingly enough, in a new film with Jamie Foxx, I think it's called Day Shift. It's a vampire movie with Snoop Dogg in it. They actually allude to one of the lines at the end of The Lost Boys. One thing I never could stomach, all the damn vampires. Like, it's amazing. You can quote from this. It's a beautiful cast of characters. Everybody has big hair, big eyes, lovely quotable lines and scenes. Ladies and gentlemen, next on our list, 1987's The Lost Boys. Like I said, next on our list, Lost Boys. What can I say? Michael, David, Star, Laddie, Margot, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, the Frog Brothers, Edgar and Allan, the Frog Brothers, Billy Riff, dude, he trashed the one that looks like Twisted Sister. There's so much freaking coolness about The Lost Boys. It's definitely one of my favorite vampire movies of all time. And I like the fact that there was a cut of this that was even more gorier, but they wanted to keep the rating so that people of certain ages can see this movie, which makes me angry because I wish they would have gone with the true vision of this movie, because the movie is amazing, but I want to see the gore factor. To give you an example, the soundtrack to this movie is one of the most amazing soundtracks in any movie, let alone a vampire movie. But when the movie starts off with Sam and Michael and their mom in the car, and they're driving to Santa Carla, which we all know the true name because they didn't want to make their town sound horrible in real life, but we know the name. Santa Cruz. We know the name of what it was supposed to be. But you're alluding into the beginning. Well, the first thing is there's a guard on the pier harassing David and his boys while they're on a merry-go-round. And then you see the guard picked up and yanked off with his door. And that was just an awesome thing. But I do like the beginning. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're around. Winders and wickets when you're unwanted. Streets surround even when you're down. When you're strange, doo, doo, doo. No one remembers your name when you're strange. Yo, the soundtrack is amazing when it comes to The Lost Boys, not just the action. And it's amazing because Sam, Michael, and the mother literally have been thrown into a meat grinder of basically Vampire Central. And it's funny how everything is happening around them and not to them yet. And on the mom front, mom meets up with a guy named Max who owns a video store, who gives her a job and helps her out because she's needy, because she doesn't have a job in this new town that she's in. So you have the Max and mom storyline. Then you have Michael and Star. He saw her on the beach. He fell immediately in love with her. If you guys don't remember the point where he saw her, it was with the saxophone and Tim Capello, which is funny because I Still Believe is the name of the song, but for, I would say, about 25 years, I thought he was saying, smell my feet. Smell my feet. When you go back and listen to it, it sounds like he's saying smell my feet. And I can't tell you how my brothers, my sisters, and my best friends, we all thought for a very long time the words to that song was smell my feet. Now we know Tim Capello, so I Still Believe, he was actually Tina Turner's saxophone player. He is the muscled down, oiled up guy just playing saxophone on the beach in front of trash cans and fires, which is all throughout the Lost Boys. There's just random trash cans and fires. I don't know why. It's the hottest movie, literally. But anyway, he sees Star, he falls in love with her, and then he wants to date her. So he gets a chance to go up to her, and she's getting on Michael's bike, and David and his boys pull up and say, Star, where you going, Star? And she says, I'm going for a ride with Michael. And he tries to get on, and she says, Star. So she gets off, she goes with David, and then David, for some reason, he likes something in Michael. I don't know why. Now, the story explains this later, but at this point, he doesn't know. So he just had a like for Michael. So he said, you know where Hudson's Bluff is overlooking the point? And then Michael says, I can't beat your bike. You don't have to beat me, Michael. You just have to try and keep up. And they ride off onto the beach, and Michael, who knows these guys at all, knows nothing about them, decides to engage in a high-speed bike race and a game of chicken, riding through the beach into the forest with David and his boys, to one of the best songs I have ever heard in my life. Say hello to the night, lost in the shadows. Say hello to the night, lost in the loneliness. Yo, I'm telling you, the soundtrack to Lost Boys is fire. Not just the time, but every single last musical montage that goes along is fire songs. And you can say them, you can hear them. Matter of fact, the main theme from the Lost Boys, Cry Little Sister, resonates so much that every time people hear it, they sing it, they know where it's from, and they get instant flashbacks to the Lost Boys. Last fire will rise inside your eyes. Black house will talk. Blind boys don't lie. Cry, little sister, thou shalt not kill. Yo, the intensity of the music in this movie just revs it up even higher. And let's just talk about sex appeal. Michael, sexy. David, sexy vampire. His entire group of people, including Bill S. Preston from Bill and Ted, he's in here, he's Margot. You got Billy Riff, you have Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, you have Jamie Gertz. Like, there is just so much beautifulness in all the characters. Like, I'm like, there's no unattractive people in this movie, which is insane. Diane Neal, there's so much. Even Max is this Adonis tall man, which if you watch Gilmore Girls, he was Rory's grandfather. Max, I only know him. I've seen him in dozens of things. But when I see that tall Adonis of a man, no matter how old he is, no matter what he's in, Max immediately comes to mind. These characters are iconic. When you can see characters from a movie in anything else and it instantly sparks you back to a movie, this is that movie. And from beginning to end, there are so many amazing scenes in this entire movie that it's insanity. It's insanity. Like, you can pick any moment at random when they're drinking David's blood in the cave. And she and Star walks up to him and he was just like, you're eating noodles, maggot. I mean, oh God, I just gave it away. You're eating noodles, Michael. You want some noodles? And they were worms. Then he was just like, have some rice. And he's like, you're eating maggots, Michael. How do they taste? And he looks at it and it's maggots crawling around. So he spits it out and it turns back just to rice. Here's the crazy part. Who eats white rice with nothing on it? That to me was the most insane thing in the world. You're eating white rice with a fork. No butter in it, no sugar, no gravy, just white rice. That is insane. No flavor, Michael. But anyway, he goes and brings out the bottle of wine. And from the moment you see this old bottle of wine, something is afoot. So David drinks it, and the funny part is every time I drink cranberry juice, Kool-Aid, any red drink in my entire world, I do the same thing David did and make the same face David did when he drunk. And when he drinks it, you feel it. I don't know how you can feel a drink, but you feel it. He drinks it and he turns left, he turns right, and you can feel his body rocking. Then he says, "Drink some of this, Michael. Be one of us." And then Star, like a conscience, peeks over Michael's ears and says, "Don't do it. It's blood." And Michael, who's been teased with the worms and the maggots, is like, "Yeah, right, whatever." And he drank it and they're like, "All right, Michael. One of us, Michael. Let the good times roll. Last fire will rise behind those eyes. Black." Dude, cry, little sister, thou shalt not. Dude, the music as it comes in on these scenes is friggin' insane. And even Michael, after that, when they're riding their bikes and they ride up to the train and they're doing the great train dodge, that was the point at which Michael actually died. He jumped off the bridge and died. Like, how did he live? They don't show you that. They don't tell you that. But I think that's the reason why Michael was stronger than Jamie Gertz's character Star. Because Michael was supposed to be her first, but then for some reason Dave was like, "Ah, to hell with you. Michael's much cooler." And he wanted Michael. Now, towards the end of this movie, we learn that Max is the head vampire, and he wanted Michael and Sam turned so they could be one big happy vampire family. Which is, like Corey Feldman says, great. The blood-sucking Brady Bunch. Exactly. And that twist comes at the end, because when Max wants to be invited into the home, you figure out he's a vampire. But when he comes into the home, holy water doesn't work, garlic doesn't work, nothing works against him. And you're like, okay, so that was a red herring. And then there's a scene, a random scene that throws you off the loop, where Max's house is attacked by David and his boys the same way they attacked Michael's house, with the motorcycles and the lights and the yelling and the screaming. And you're just like, okay, so they're after him too. But then at the very end, with the big fight scene with David versus Michael, and I'm still going to say this, remember, it wasn't a wooden stake that went through David's heart. It was antler horns. So there is a very big, very, very big chance that David did not die at the end of The Lost Boys. You can say what you want, you can believe what you want, but if the lore is valid on this, even Max got staked with a big wooden stake from Grandpa from outside. Now remember, those antlers are not wood. So he may have received a wound and been down, but he was not dead. He is a vampire. One of the head vampires, believe it or not. So the greatest part about this movie is after David, and I'm just going to say the David-Michael fight, fucking phenomenal. Yo, when Michael is in the dark and he's looking around and David's flying in and hitting him and bunching him and just knocking him out. And then he's like, "What's the matter? You afraid to face me, David? Huh?" And then he was like, "I tried to make you an immortal." "You tried to make me a killer." And then he hits him in the face. And then he literally looks up and Michael vamps out for the first time in the movie. And it's friggin' insane. And then you see David in the ceiling rafters laugh and look at him. And he says, "You are a killer." And they fly into the air and hit each other and spin around. And Michael rams him into the wall. Then David says, "My turn." And then he flies him forward and he grabbed the thing. And he was like, "Stop fighting me, Michael. I don't want to kill you. It's too late. My blood is in your veins. So is mine." And he spins him around and puts him on the antlers. And thou shalt not. And the doom, 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 doom. That music is amazing. But anyway, the culmination of this is Diane Neal runs in with Max. And they're like, "What the hell is going on around here? There's bodies everywhere. There's blood in the kitchen. There's people laying everywhere." And Max walks over to another area to look at David, and Sam is trying to tell his mom what's going on. Michael, who's been knocked out now, says if everybody's okay, and his face is normal, showing that David might have died because they all unvamped at this point. I don't know what you can call it. They all unvamped. And then Max turns around and says, "I'm sorry, Lucy, David and my boys misbehaved." And she's like, "Excuse me?" And he was like, "But I told you, boys need a mother." He said, we was all supposed to be a big, happy family. Your boys and mine. I still want you, Lucy. I haven't changed my mind about that. And then she sees Max for the first time vamp out. And then Michael's upstairs, says, "I didn't invite you this time, Max." And he runs, and then he flings Michael up into the rafters. Now, see, this is the point I'm trying to make. Because this is what you guys need to know. It was David's blood that turned Michael, not Max's blood. It was David's blood that turned Michael. So if David did die, and you saw Laddie turn back to normal, you saw Star turn back to normal, you saw Michael turn back to normal, because they were all turned from Michael's blood. Now, at this point of the movie, David is on the horns, supposedly dead. So then how then can Michael vamp out again against Max? Think about that. How can Michael vamp out again against Max if it was David's blood that changed him? So anyway, the dad drives through the wall with the gigantic stakes that he had been planting earlier, and the entire movie, Gramps, which is her father, Diane Neal's father, has been in the background observing this shit. Now, he lives in this town. He knows about vampires, and I think he was a vampire hunter because of the way he lived and the things he did. He found excuses to go out and things to do and that, but he all collected death, and he made petrified animal statues and taxidermy. He had a weird knack for living a special way. And then he had a shelf that he wanted nobody else to touch, and it had something flipped over it. So we don't know what was in that shelf. But if the new movie with Jamie Foxx is a vampire hunter, they say things in it that alludes to maybe David not dying, and that the grandpa was a vampire hunter as well. And at the very end of the movie, as the smoke is clearing and everybody's coughing and everybody's trying to make sure everybody's okay, Gramps walks over to the refrigerator and she says, "Dad, are you okay? Dad? Dad?" And he doesn't answer. And then he picks up one of his drinks and he says, "The only thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach, all the damn vampires." Which means he knew all along. Great friggin' ending. And then as the lights turn off, "People are strange when you're a stranger." I'm telling you, the movie is insane. I've talked way too long about it. Gotta move on to another movie. Ladies and gentlemen, The Lost Boys is on our list for a reason. On to the next one. Ladies and jelly spoons, next on my list of my most favorite vampire movies has to be John Carpenter's Vampires. If ever there was a movie closer to life about real vampires, John Carpenter's Vampires has to be on that list. And if you're doing a list of vampire movies that you want to watch, you need John Carpenter's Vampire. James Woods as Crow, the vampire head hunter, I'm telling you, is absolutely amazing. Shirley did a great job too, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, and we did have Mr. Baldwin in this too, which did a great job too. A great supporting cast. But Valak, the main vampire in this movie, haunted my dreams for his portrayal of real vampires. And that is what we need to talk about, because when it comes to vampire movies, this one establishes a lore steeped in realism, more realism than I've ever heard in a vampire movie. Ladies and gentlemen, next up on the list, John Carpenter's Vampires. All right. Now, John Carpenter's vampires, I've done it on my list before. But the reason why John Carpenter's Vampire should be on your list of great vampire movies as well is it establishes and basically kind of holds your hand through what's going on in the world through the eyes of vampire hunters. There is an established chapters here and there, the Catholic Church. There are these group of people who go out with a priest with them who blesses holy water and everything else and helps them with everything. But I like the fact there is a scene in the movie where James Woods is taking on a new priest in his group because his group has been eviscerated by Valak. Valak being the head vampire in this movie. Now, I like the fact that vampires go to ground in this movie. So when the sun is setting, they literally come out through the dirt. It is absolutely insane because there's not coffins. They have nests and they live in dens, but them coming out of the dirt, there's a scene where all the masters rise from the dirt, and it's both part zombie and vampire at the same time because you realize that these things are dead. They know that they're dead. They smell dead. They are death. So them rising from the soil was an awesome spectacle. Now, the scene I was talking about with the new priest in the car with Crow, James Woods, he leans over and he has a feeling that the Padre is not telling him something. He explained everything about Valak and he was just like, you want to tell me how this Valak knows my name? And the main head priest at the time, the cardinal, they had bishops and everything else, didn't say anything to him. So he ordered him to go build a new team. So as they're driving in the car, James Woods is driving, but he's talking to the Padre because he wants to give him a chance, but at the same time, he knows he's hiding something. So he says to him, have you ever seen a vampire? Not like something on TV, but a real vampire. He said, first of all, they're not a bunch of guys lounging around in rented formal wear looking to seduce everybody with a sleazy Eurotrash accent. He said, you want to put garlic around your neck? You want to wear garlic? One of these guys will bend you over and take a stroll up your chatalala walla while he's sucking the blood out of your neck. Awesome line. They don't sleep in coffins lying taffeta. You want to kill one? You drive a sharp stake, a wooden stake, right through his heart. The sunlight turns them into crispy critters. And it's funny because the explanation he made is grounded in reality if you think about it. And that to me spoke volumes. My biggest pet peeve in movies is unrealistic reactions and unrealistic things. Like, I know people will do certain things out of fear, but then there are certain people who have common sense who will use it. There's some people who don't get me wrong, but there's some people who have common sense. Now, when he figures out the Padre is hiding something to him, he pulls him off to the side of the road, and he was just like, look, I like you. I don't want to hurt you. You're going to talk and tell me something. You know something, you're going to tell me. And he ends up pulling out a knife on the priest, and he was just like, well, you're not going to hurt me, Mr. Crow. I've read your file. I know you. And he was just like, listen to me. My father had a secret once. He had been bitten. And on the third day he was turning. That night he came after my mom and he came after me. I killed my own father, Padre. I got no problems killing you. And the delivery, the line delivery that is in this movie, it's poetic. Like, everything that happens in this movie, John Carpenter's dialogue is friggin' amazing. His musical score is friggin' amazing. The women are friggin' amazing. There's a scene at the Sun God Hotel scene. Even the beginning of them walking by, he did a butt walk by scene. Bravo. Whew, bravo. Even though in the next few minutes, everybody in that entire hotel room is dead. Because Valak just rips everybody to shreds. But he bites one person. That's played by Shirley. Beautiful woman. Beautiful woman. You get to see a lot of her later on when she's turning in a room with Mr. Baldwin. And they have her laying on the bed naked with the butt up. And I'm just like, John Carpenter loves some butt scenes in his vampire movie. Not that I'm hating. But the turnabout happens is when you capture somebody who's turning, they haven't turned yet, they have a link, a psychic link to the master. What he sees, they sees. So he decides to hold on to her and use her to find Valak and find out what Valak's doing. And Valak is looking for a black cross, the cross of Berzier, because the first vampire in this lore was created accidentally by the Catholic Church. So in a reverse exorcism, it shifted and Valak turned into the world's first vampire. So he's looking for the cross so they can finish the ritual that was started so long ago, because that should shift the balance where he can walk in the daylight and still be a vampire. So that's what he's after, the ultimate goal, the cross of Berzier. And that is the substance of the entire movie. But along the way, Crow's second in command, his friend, this person he's been around for a very long time on his team, while taking care of Miss Ralph, Miss Shirley, he gets bitten when she's trying to jump out of a window. He pulls her back in, he cuts his arm, and she bites him, and he gets angry about it. But on the same token, he continues to protect and stand and fight with Crow until they make it to this town where there's a bunch of masters. And he realizes there's a very telling hearted scene, a very soft hearted scene, where he's like, so when did she bite you? And he was like, a couple days ago. I still covered your ass. And the Padre points a gun because he was like, he's a vampire, Jack. He's gonna kill somebody. We have to kill him. And he told the vampire priest now, who's a hunter, he's badass, he didn't put his feet in the soil, lower the gun. If a member of your team is ever bitten by a vampire, never ever let that team member live. So he has Padre lower the gun, and he said, so I feel like I owe you 3 days. 3 days. And he says, how about it, Padre? And Padre says, 3 days. You got 3 days. So he hugs him and says, Via con Dios, Slayer. And it's a very sad moment, because you know that Crow is 100% by his word going to kill him. He's going to hunt him down and kill him, because he can't control who he is and what he is now. So as he's getting in the car with his girlfriend, the woman that bit him, he leans in and he says to him, wherever you go, wherever you end up, I will find you, and I will kill you. The girl, too. And Baldwin says, I know, and he hugs him. And he lets him get in the car and drive away. And then he tells Padre, you know, they still got to clean up. There's a lot of other vampires they have to clean up in this nest. And the movie ends on a somber note. They did make a sequel. I didn't like it too much. I'm just going to say I have nothing against John Bon Jovi or Eddie Winslow, who is a vampire hunter in the second movie. I would have cast it better. I would have found a way to bring back James Woods, because he sold the movie. He did sell the movie. The movie's on his back, and he holds the movie. Is he indestructible? No. Does he have amazing lines? Yes. Does he interject the comic relief and funny things? Yes. So amidst this horror movie, he interjects the comic relief, and his timing, his words, and his phrases. I'm going to say not all of it can be on script. A lot of it had to be ad-libbed, because a lot of it, James Woods, it feels like it's just coming from him. Which, if it's the script, that's absolutely amazing. But if it's not, it's just James Woods, and that is awesome enough. So John Carpenter's Vampires, for me, I saw it in theaters. It was it's like 98, 97, somewhere around that time. It was, and it still is, one of the better vampire tellings in a movie that I've ever seen in my entire life, and that's why it's on the list. If you haven't seen John Carpenter's Vampires, you owe it to yourself at least once to see John Carpenter's Vampires. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, John Carpenter's Vampires. Awesome. Next one. Okay, ladies and jelly spoons. My next one on this list was a toss up because they're basically in the same world and the same lore. I could have done Interview with a Vampire, but I opted to go with Queen of the Damned for a bunch of different reasons. Starring the late, great Aaliyah. If you don't know her or her music, she was an awesome presence. She died way too soon. And the saddest part is, with her acting in this movie and Romeo Must Die, she had a huge movie career ahead of her. She was actually really good. And Queen of the Damned is the next vampire movie I'm talking about. Now, it has vampires in it, but there's other reasons why this one has to be on this list. So, ladies and jelly spoons, boys and girls, children of all ages, Queen of the Damned is next on our list. Yeah. Now, the next one, like I said, Queen of the Damned is on this list for several reasons. Now, I may be a little bit of a movie whore because when it comes to vampire movies, a score does a lot for a movie. See, a lot of people, you don't understand the music that goes along with a movie, a real movie. I'm not talking about the new modern movies that don't have any of that. I'm talking about real movies, older back in the day. I'm talking early 2000s, 90s, 80s, 70s, even 60s, some 50s movies, some 40s. But the soundtrack itself was another character in the movie. Not just the people, but the music also plays a character in the movie. Now, in Interview with a Vampire, the movie, we're introduced to the vampire Lestat. We're introduced to Louis. If you're not familiar with Anne Rice's novels, it's an entire world that's in there. You also have the Mayfair witches that are involved in it, the Talamascers. Like, there's a bunch of different lores brought together. By the way, if you have AMC or AMC Plus and have the ability, there is an Interview with the Vampire Interview with the Vampire series. There's also a Mayfair Witches, and they also Mayfair Witches. Anyway, there's also a Talamasker series coming out, and there is another Interview with the Vampire series coming out with Lestat in it. Lestat was already previewed in a bunch of the episodes. It is a great series. If you haven't seen it, it's worth the watch. But the movie Queen of the Damned is part of that lore. So when I say Interview with a Vampire, when I use words like Lestat, Louis, and different characters. Now, the character in Queen of the Damned vampire movie, he is what Brad Pitt's character was playing in Interview with a Vampire. So you understand who he is, Louis is, and who Lestat is. Now, the great part is they actually went in a different direction too with this, with Marius and a bunch of other things happening there, which I kind of liked, but I kind of didn't like. Because he is known as Lestat in this movie, but he's clearly Louis' character. Lestat is known as this blonde, almost masculine and feminine vampire. And I like the idea of that, but he's clearly Louis, even though he's the vampire Lestat in this movie, Queen of the Damned. He's Louis. And Marius is supposed to be the Lestat character. But anyway, it turns it on its head, and he is somebody who is a vampire who was turned, and he had a thirst for the world, but he's into music. And through his music, he wants to share vampires with the world. He's daring them to come out because he's looking for a friend who he hasn't seen in a very long time, because he went to the vampire queen's tomb and committed a no sin that was not supposed to be done, and his maker left him. So for a very long time, Lestat has been yearning for something, a feeling, to feel alive. And in Queen of the Damned, he meets a Talamasker, which is like a watcher, basically, if you into like Highlander. And something in her is special. We find out later on, but I'm not going to reiterate to that. But I will say, with him being into the music and Aaliyah being a musician by nature, it automatically was just set to have an awesome soundtrack. And I'm going to tell you, the concert and the songs that he put on in this movie is amazing. He doesn't sing them. I wished he did, because he looks the part. It's like a Milli Vanilli thing. Sometimes you look the part, but you prefer the visuals coming through somebody else. I'm not saying I don't like anybody who did Forsaken or Redeemer or anything like that. I'm saying I love the music, and I also love him singing it, even though he pantomimed it. It's weird. Anyway, the soundtrack is what's amazing. And I can't speak highly enough about the soundtrack being the character in this movie. When they walk into this bar, the Talamaster walks into this vampire bar, you're treated to the song from 13 Ghosts. I believe in people dying. I believe in people crying. I believe in... keep living. I don't know the name of the song. It comes to my head right now, but that's also in here, and that sold me on 13 Ghosts. So when I heard that song, I was like, I was like, oh yes, love the song. But I'm over it. You see, I've fallen in a precipice, buried by memories of the past. My memories fading, I am fading. Dude, I'm telling you, see, I cannot be forsaken, because I'm not the only one. We walks amongst you, feeding, raping. Must we hide from everyone? The music is amazing in here. And there's a concert he puts on. Dude, I'm telling you. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom, doom. Walking, waiting, alone without a care. Hoping, hating, things that I can't bear. Did you think it's cool to walk right up and take my life and fuck it up? Well, did you? Dude. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. I see hell in your eyes. Dude, that song frickin' rules. Taken in by surprise. Touching you makes me feel alive. Touching you makes me die inside. Yo, the soundtrack is freaking phenomenal in Queen of the Damned. And it's a great movie wrapped up in that soundtrack, but I'd be remiss if I did not mention the music being a great part of this. So anyway, he goes along. She's a living statue. She comes back to life. She's a vampire god. She gives him his blood. She wants him as her new mate and consort, her new king. And the rest of the vampire court doesn't want that, so they try to figure out a way to kill Akasha, which is what she's known as, Aaliyah. And you find out that the Talamasker's mom is a vampire too, and she's a part of this court. And they were trying to protect her by, putting her out here to the side. But somehow between A and B, she falls in love with Lestat. He falls in love with her. He turns her. But at the end, it's all of them trying to drink Akasha down enough to make her power weak so that they can kill her. And they find out at the end that the last person that drinks of her blood becomes living statue like she was. And it ends up being the Talamasker's mom. Now, the crazy part is they could let her die or bring her back, and Lestat opts to bring her back, which I always waited for a sequel to this movie, and we've never got it. I hope the series does justice to the lore because I have read a lot of Anne Rice and I do like the characters. I do like the entire wide cinematic universe that she's bringing together with TV shows, because it's easier to tell a longer, bigger story on a TV show than a movie where it has to be literally squished together. But Queen of the Damned is an amazing experience, Anne Rice experience, wrapped up in a cocoon of great music. Some from Aaliyah. Like I said, just get the soundtrack. Just Google the soundtrack, Queen of the Damned. The music, every time it comes on, I find myself just listening to those songs over and over again, especially Forsaken and Redeemer. Definitely both of those. The beats, the music, it just gets to me. I don't know what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, on our list of greatness when it comes to vampire movies, you can squeeze them together because they're part of the same universe. We're going to say Queen of the Damned / Interview with a Vampire. Interview with a Vampire was its own little awesomeness. I did like Tom Cruise. I did like Brad Pitt. I did like Antonio Banderas. I did like the lore of where it went in there and how making a vampire so young was a crime. So Louis had to fight for his daughter, who he loved, who ultimately ended up being meeting the son in the series. And it's a very harmful, painful way of understanding how Louis had to go through the years, and then you realize that Lestat wasn't dead. And like I said, there's a whole huge combined lore, but I prefer Queen of the Damned. It's got a lot closer to the subject matter in Anne Rice than Interview with a Vampire did, just for me. That's just for me. So let's move on to the next one. Ladies and gentlemen, my next entry is controversial for a lot of people, but I'm going to tell you why it resonated so much with me. It's 2014's Dracula Untold, starring Luke Evans. And this, to me, is probably one of the most underrated, overlooked vampire and Dracula lore movies ever told. And I'm going to tell you why. There is a gaming reason why. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, next up on my list, Luke Evans, Dracula Untold, 2014. All right, ladies and jelly spoons. Now, I'm going to be 100% real with you. This movie has gotten a lot of hate. It's got a lot of negative naysayers. But if you've played Castlevania, if you played the later iterations of Castlevania, I'm telling you, this verbatim is one of the newest Castlevania games that I've played. And watching the movie, I'm like, I've seen this somewhere before. Okay, the older dude, he has the gift, he's giving it to the younger person. I'm like, why the hell does this feel so familiar? If you've played Castlevania, Lord of Shadows 1 or 2, then this 100% is as close as you're going to get to a real live Castlevania movie. They don't have the names, but the story, the characters, hell, you even play as him, the cursed guy, and then literally going at the end of this movie where it fast forwards to the future. That literally is when you come with the bats and you're old and you have to claim the blood, and then you become young again, and then you turn into rats and different creatures. Dracula Untold, and I'm giving Luke Evans a lot of credit for this, because I didn't want to like another Dracula movie. You got Dracula 2000, you got Blackula, there's a bunch of different vampire movies that don't quite nail Dracula. I mean, it took me until this year to realize that my boy Gerard Butler was Dracula in Dracula 2000. I was like, get the fuck out of here. I went back and rewatched Dracula 2000, and I'm like, holy shit, Gerard Butler was the main, he was Dracula. What? Who knew that? Like, but then I wasn't thinking back then of Gerard Butler being this big guy. I mean, became a big guy later on with 300 and everything else that he did in Greenland, which they're making a Greenland 2, which I don't know if I'm excited to see that or just nervous because it didn't need a sequel. Anyways, Dracula Untold, I like the story. I like the time period. I like what is being told, because at the very heart of this, you have this great king who is on the precipice of losing his castle, all his people, and 1,000 sons being required to this Turkish lord who for some reason just has it in him to be an asshole. And a lot of movies have assholes. That the asshole character is not lost on me. But the fact of the matter is, there is a telling tale, because at the beginning of this movie, they find Turks dead in their lands, and they go up to this cave to investigate, where they find this evil entity, which basically kills everything there but Luke Evans. And he escapes with his life due to sunshine, which is amazing. But at the cusp of war and his entire lands, his family and everything being taken from him, Vlad the Impaler, him being taken as a boy himself to the same kind of Turkish lord, it's insanity that he would climb back into a grave in this cave seeking help. And believe it or not, the vampire in the cave even quotes this. What kind of man seeks hope in his own death? You climbed into your own death to seek hope. So he makes a deal with him. Drink from the skull, because he tells him, how many men have you killed? How many, like, he knows the lying in his voice. So when Luke tells him the truth, Vlad tells him the truth, he understands this. So he says, I have a deal for you. He crushes a skull. He bites and bleeds into the top of the skull, which is a cool effect because you can see the veins and everything in there. I don't know what they used for that, but that was friggin' amazing. And he says, if you drink of this, you'll have all my powers, all my strengths. You'll be able to do all my wonders. But in 3 days, if you don't give in to the thirst, you'll turn back to being normal. Lies! Didn't work for Michael drinking the blood either out of the bottle. And he's looking for this strength to defend his people. So he agrees to it, foolhardy. He's like, I can deal with this. I can deal with this. I can take it. Just don't have to drink blood or take somebody's blood for 3 days. I can do this. But from the moment it touched your lips, you were cursed. It was done. The deal was done. There was no going back. So he drinks the blood. He says, well, now what? And the vampire tells him, now you die. Now you die. And that's exactly what happens. So he wakes up in the woods and he has the ability to do these things. He's strong. He crushes a rock. He can look up and see the night sky. He can hear spiders spinning a web 1,000 miles away. He can run and turn into bats into the air and fly. He masters these abilities almost instantaneously. And in one of the coolest scenes, I've only seen it one other time before, and that was House of the Dragons, where my boy Damon walked up to a castle and an entire army to fight everyone. He walked up to a castle full of army to fight everyone himself, not him and 3 other people. He took on the entire army himself. That was his whole plan. That was his whole, this is what I'm going to do. In this movie, the castle is being siege laid to it. He walks out the front doors by himself against an army and takes out the entire army. It's an absolutely mesmerizing scene to see him enjoy the fear that he causes. And now remember, Vlad the Impaler also had a reputation of killing people and hanging people on pikes and having heads at dinner tables. He was also a butcher, so he was not uncommon to this type of warfare. But now with this ultimate power, it enhanced that evil inside of him. So as he slaughters the entire field, he walks back to the doors of his castle, and the men come running out with swords, and they're looking around, and he said, ask me not what happened on this field. Which is basically, I'd be like, yo, you just took a whole fucking army out, dude. What can I have? What you have? I need what you need, which comes into play later on. So he ends up taking his people to Castle Dracula up in the mountains somewhere, where they hopefully can funnel the Turkish army in, and they can take them out. But his people start to turn on him because they see there's something different about him. He's more like a beast. And one of the priests who works in the castle happens to be Van Helsing. They end up turning against him. Now, the crazy part is he only damned himself to save you, and you turn on him. This is people, though. This is real people. So during the siege of the castle and fight, he loses his wife. The Turkish guy takes her, and he decides to take her life, which is the life he swore he would not drink, because he swore he wouldn't drink, and for 3 days he did not. But seeing her die, she wanted something to come from her death, so she gave him her life as he drank her blood. And as he drank her blood, he got his full power and was able to take out the rest of the Turkish army, which damned him forever, but it also loosed the original vampire from his cage, from being inside that cave. That was part of the deal. And now the ultimate game begins. And if you've played Lord of the Shadows 1 and 2, Castlevania, Lord of the Shadows 1 and 2, his look, his armor, the story, it all led up to, I was like, this is freaking a Castlevania Lord of the Shadows movie. Like, I can't wait for part 2, which never happened. And that is the biggest travesty. Besides this being an awesome vampire movie, Dracula's story, and the modern version of everything. I love the action. I love the costume. I love the bad guys. I love everything about this. Is it Bram Stoker's Dracula? No. But it is Castlevania, Lord of the Shadows. One of the greatest Castlevania games I've ever played in my life. So it resonated with me a lot more than it did with a lot more people. But as gamers, if you are a gamer, I'm telling you, if you've played Castlevania Lord of Shadows 1 and 2, watch this movie. Because it will resonate you in ways. There are literally verbatim scenes directly from Lord of the Shadows 2 in this movie. Like, when I went across it, I was like, why does this feel so familiar? And then I was literally went back and played it, and I'm like, this is Dracula Untold. Dracula Untold is Castlevania. Like, I kind of like this. I really like it. But the story at its heart is a heartbreaking tale of a man and how far he will go for his love of his wife, his family, his country, and his people. And paying the ultimate price and sacrificing himself for their lives. Because his father didn't. His father gave him away as a boy when it was brought to him. His father gave him away. But he would not do the same for his son. He promised his son he would never do that. And in the end, he ended up giving his gift to a lot of his people so that they could fight back as well. And those people ended up turning on him too as well. Even as vampires, they was looking to drink and kill everybody. It's amazing how much control he had over the curse. But that's the point of the gift being given to him. It was his legacy. It was him being known as the son of the dragon. Him being Vlad the Impaler. Him being Vlad Tepes. Him being Count Dracula. Dracula. All of this was in this movie. And I can't stress this enough. People talk, people say things, but when it comes down to it, you need to use your own mind and judge for yourself. And I'm telling you, I can sit through Dracula Untold anytime I find it on TV, anytime I want to watch a vampire movie, because it's become one of my favorites. Not just as a gamer, but because how the story is told. And I'm learning that the better stories told in Hollywood now in movies, they get horrible ratings. I'm learning this lately. If the thing sucks, it gets praised. If it's amazing, it gets downed. It gets downed by everybody. And to me, that's not justice for the actors, the story, or the people that work tirelessly on the movie or the production. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in this video of my favorite vampire movies, I wanted to do more, but I got so in tune to this. Dracula Untold will be the last one for this video. I am going to do another video, so don't go anywhere. But I will be doing another video. But Dracula Untold, definitely one of my most favorite vampire movies. Now, if you made it this far in the video, I have some runner-ups. Some runner-ups that you can be like, why the hell was it on this list? Because I'm doing a part 2. I have to do a part 2. But some runners-up that won't be in the next video, but to me were still pretty cool anyway. The new telling of Renfield with Nicolas Cage. I found it hilarious. I found it funny. And I enjoyed the vampires. I really did. It's a different story, and it's from a comedic standpoint, but Renfield is definitely another one that you have to see at least once. I found it pretty cool. Another one, Vampires in the Bronx. It's a little known film. If you liked Attack the Block with John Boyega, you know, it looked like a golem creature, fam. We're going to represent the block. That movie, if you enjoyed Attack the Block, watch Vampires in the Bronx. Watch that movie. It is awesome. It is absolutely awesome. I don't get why it never resonated with people, but it resonates with me here. So, yeah. If you like Attack the Block, definitely you'll like Vampires in Brooklyn. It's amazing. It's amazing. What more can I say? There are a bunch of other runner-ups that I could name in here as a bonus. But when I do the next video, I'm going to shed some light on just why a bunch of other ones. But like I said, you're like, well, you're right now like, wait a minute, you missed this one, you missed that one, you missed that one. No. That's why there's a second video. So stay tuned for the second video of my favorite vampire movies, because I am going to hit the ones you talking about. I guarantee you. If you know like I know, and I know like you know, and we here, trust me, it's going to be on the next list. But ladies and gentlemen, from 24K Movies TV Show Reviews, this was some of the best vampire movies that I've ever seen in my life. And you know now why I like them. You understand now why I like them. And if you haven't seen them, go see them. And if you don't, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You need vampirism in your life in the way that some of these movies make them. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, these are all platinum movies. So don't need to ask the rating. They're all platinum. And Dracula Untold is probably the most underrated story told when it comes to vampirism in the later decades. I'm not talking about Twilight. I'm talking about the Vlad storyline. You need to see Dracula Untold. Definitely. Stay tuned to the next video. Till then, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. If you hear a knock at the door and you feel a chill down your spine, don't invite them in. Don't let them sink their fangs into you. Then again, you might just want to. Once a vampire, always a vampire. Till next time, I'll see you guys from the Game Dojo.